Good afternoon to everyone, and welcome to this, our third series of presentations for the evening. I am Selwyn Rodolfo, the moderator for this session of Lightning Talks on ethical considerations and policy in AI. Before we begin, there are a few reminders. We have a code of conduct that we will adhere to for this conference, and the link is posted in the chat. If you experience any issues related to conduct, please contact us via email, and that email is also in the chat. Each presenter has a total of 15 minutes for both presentation and question time. We have a Q&A icon, and that will be used for your questions. And you can pose your questions there, and they will be addressed after each presentation. You may also use the chat feature for your general comments as you desire. You can enable captions by clicking on the Show Caption button at the bottom of the screen. This session is being recorded. Please ensure that your microphone is muted. It is now my pleasure to introduce our first presenter, Kelly Karst. Kelly is the User Experience and Emerging Technology Librarian at the City University of New York, Brooklyn College, and an MA student in Digital Humanities at the university's Graduate Center. Please join me in welcoming Kelly Karst.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm going to get right into it so we have time for everybody's presentations. But today I'll talk about confronting the AI digital divide. And I want to emphasize that this is an exploration. I'm not offering any answers here, but I hope that this is something that will spark dialogue with you and within your own libraries about the digital divide. I'll also say that I'm going to have a bit of buildup before I get to the point, so fair bit of warning there. So, starting with the buildup, I just wanted to take us back to card catalogs. Remember them? I happened to be in a library at the Hispanic Society in Manhattan the other day, and that's still their primary mode of cataloging. And although it was very nostalgic and fun going through them, I wonder how much we really miss them beyond the aesthetic and the feel. Because nowadays we have pretty awesome online catalogs and discovery systems, as you see here, and just use some keywords and what you're looking for pops right up. It didn't start this way, of course. So when online catalogs, OPACs, came into being, it wasn't as simple as we know them to be today. This little snippet from a 1982 article, pardon me, tells us ways that you might interact with the system with a bunch of slashes and this and that to try and just get to the title that you're looking for. I, as a librarian, get some anxiety thinking about trying to interact with those systems. So for reasons of it being difficult and also other reasons, there's resistance to this new technology. Why try and fix something that isn't broken? This isn't what we're used to. The usual modes of resistance that come in when something new comes along. But you know, we got through it and we have the awesome systems that we have today that are totally perfect, right? Well, some of you may already be rolling your eyes because you work with your patrons or students and have probably noticed that it's not so simple for them. And in the study, that's a few years old now, but I think still applies, it showed that users tend to trust libraries a great deal for finding sources, but find library systems the most difficult to use. And I think we can all attest to seeing sort of the blank stares and reaching those walls and trying to get out of the library and into things like Google and Google Scholar and now ChatGPT instead. So How can AI help with research? I'm coming from an academic college, but I think these sort of things can apply in the public and school library sphere. A lot of things we're aware of already. You might get help with getting a quick overview of a topic to understand where you're even going when you're trying to research it. In that same vein, finding maybe themes and major figures that you could go back to the library and learn more about. Help with developing a research question, which a lot of undergraduate students in particular struggle with. Maybe discover major works on a topic. We'll talk about that with the caveat a little bit later there to find back at the library, and to possibly help understand complex text. So, for instance, something like Elicit is a AI-generated search system for academic papers. The academic papers that it indexes are real, and it uses natural language searching to be able to find things. There is limitations in how much it can find. The index that it works with isn't the end all be all, but it can be a good way to sort of get your foot in the door with doing academic research without having to already know about Boolean search logic and things of that nature. Similarly, tools like Chat PDF can help if you're new to scholarly articles and chapters and discourse to help to understand them. So you can upload something like an article and ask questions of it, such as what is this actually trying to say? Maybe how it applies to the assignment or discussion that you're having in class, or where it answers parts of your research question or doesn't, and getting through that hurdle to then be able to scaffold and learn about deep reading and making connections. But, not everything is pie in the sky. So, what could be lost if we integrate AI more into research? Well, the most famous being the fake citations or hallucinations. And although some of these systems are getting better with that, they aren't. Ultimately, they're large language models that are just trying to find the next best word in things. I think we've all had the instance of someone freaking out that they need to find this article. And as you dig a little bit deeper, because you can't find it either, it turns out that they got the source from ChatGPT. We also run into the issue of a citation loop where if you are using something like Research Rabbit or Elicit, you may be filtering to show the articles that are cited the most. And maybe that's setting a benchmark that those things are going to continue to be cited again and again and again. And it may become even more difficult for there to be diversity in the scholarly discourse. And as a colleague at my own Brooklyn College wrote a while back in the Chronicle about the writing process, is that the writing process can be difficult work, but it trains us to find our voice and make our own order out of chaos. In other words, going through the writing process is a transformative experience. And I think some of the difficulties of doing research and finding things and analyzing them can too be a transformative experience. So again, a few things to go over about what could be lost with AI in research is that iterative problem solving, perhaps being fed information rather than discovering things that may be more to what you're looking for or your standards. Making invisible the labor behind producing the research even more. It's not bots that are producing the information that the bots are feeding to you. And maybe even more of a disconnect from searching for the original texts at the library. We've had this issue with Google Scholar, for instance, where a student may click on all the links in Google Scholar and not think to copy and paste the title back at the library, or to learn if the library has some way to connect to Google Scholar to show what's available. Of course, there's a lot more we could talk about today, which I think I'll let our colleagues do more of. But is there a place for AI in student research? And I think that there is. I wonder how much it's practical for an undergraduate student to know how to navigate the library straight off the bat and use complex research strategies for their entry level assignment. I feel that AI could be a really helpful scaffolding tool to break through those walls and barriers for students to build their muscles to better understand the research process, which of course will take a lot of guidance and practice. And, we're coming back to the OPACs and a resistance to new technology and using AI in the library sphere. which has a lot of merit. Definitely, again, I'll let my colleagues talk more about that. But I think that there could be a space for a transformation in how we discover information. But now, getting to the point, who might be left out of all of this exciting change? I have a feeling that expectations are changing in higher education, where there's an expectation to have faster turnaround, a richer synthesis of scholarly communication, and higher quality presentation of materials, both from undergraduate students up to faculty themselves. And we can see this in the business sphere as well, that has less a concern about the ethics behind things, but there's a demand for faster and better high quality presentation. So I feel that there may be a looming digital divide coming with this AI revolution. And we traditionally know the digital divide to be a gulf between those who have ready access to current digital technology, like computers and the internet, and those that don't, and also a social or educational inequality that results from this. In a Brookings article, they also think about how that's sort of the first stage of the digital divide, that the rich have the technology like the computers and the internet. But then there's a second digital divide where the rich have the technology and skills to use it effectively. And a question about a third digital divide, of perhaps we have the tools and the instructions on how to use them, but the rich have the support system to be able to use it and work through problems in a systematic way. For instance, this is an older report. I couldn't find a newer one, but I think it still applies. Looking at the cost of AI tools, and a lot of AI tools have free elements about them, but a lot of them are freemium in that you could possibly use only a few features, or you have a limited amount of use of the AI before you need to pay. And this study at the time looked into how much a monthly subscription to a suite of AI tools that you might use for a variety of reasons could cost a month. And it added up to about 96 US dollars a month to be able to have this suite. Now, since this has come out, there are some options. For instance, Gemini just released news that they are allowing their first tier subscription to be free to students. And a lot of our institutes implement Copilot within the Microsoft 365 suite. But getting back to those tiers of the digital divide, it's one thing to have the tools, but it's another to know how to use them. And that's not just the technical know-how, but also troubleshooting and being able to read between the lines and critically analyze what the tool is doing and if it's the appropriate use. Otherwise, known to us as a little bit of digital literacy. So, how can the library get involved? Well, you can incorporate AI into your lesson plans and workshops. You can start to ask AI related questions in your reference interview if you think there's a reasonable way or applicable way to use AI for that reference question. When possible, create library access links in the AI databases, like Google Scholar, if you can connect it back to your institution. Things like Elicit have that capability. Promoting information about how to appropriately use AI and LibGuides, your social media feeds, newsletters, etc. And advocating when and where you can. One such instance is some of us may know that Primo, which hosts OneSearch, does have an AI research tool that does allow for natural language searching, but it also includes a summary of the research question, which we didn't like in higher education. We don't want students copying and pasting that. We also saw the limitations of where it was pulling the information. So we're advocating for more of the natural language searching and less of trying to answer the research question for our students. But I can sense that there's an elephant in the room because I think that a lot of us are already doing those sorts of things. So what then? Well, it's going to take more than just the library. It's going to take institutional solutions beyond just the library itself. So there needs to be funding for institutional licenses beyond just things like Copilot in the Microsoft 365 suite that your institute may already subscribe to. It's going to take like really and truly dedicated training of faculty and staff on how to use and teach with AI, explicitly teaching literacy skills in class. So with that, there needs to be a robust support staff that's adequately financed, that works together with librarians, faculty, so on and so forth, to integrate media literacy repeatedly across the curriculum, not just one time in an English composition class, but over and over again in a systematic and methodical way. And beyond that, including students in the ongoing dialogue of how to approach AI, because they may know about tricks and tools that you don't, but we have the professional eye to know what's appropriate and what might not be, and provide more suggestions.
Just 1
So
minute
thank you.
remaining, Kelly. Sure.
So that's perfect. That's just sort of my spiel. I hope it gets you thinking about the digital divide and how you might engage in conversations at your own libraries. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kelly, for that presentation. Are there any questions? We can take 1 or 2 quickly from anyone. Thank you for raising that issue of the digital divide. And I see you had 3 levels of it. There's a hand raised. Go right ahead. If you may need to put on your mic. Or if you're unable to, you can post it in the question and answer. Okay, that was a slip. Okay, so we'd like to thank you, Kelly, for your presentation. If we have any more chances towards the end, then we may take a question if one comes to mind. We now move on to our second presenter, Shima Moradi. Shima is the Middle Eastern Studies Librarian and Area Studies Collection Strategist at the University of California, Santa Barbara. Please join me in welcoming Shima Moradi. Great, go right ahead.
Thank you, Selvin. Do you see my slide without any problem?
Yes,
Wonderful.
we are seeing it. Good.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to speak to all who are eager to shape the intellectual heart of our libraries. Today, I'm here to discuss smart libraries, ethical AI confronting challenges and ensuring fairness. And I'm going to talk about how we can unlock the potential of generative AI in libraries while upholding the ethics, equity, and trust our community relies on us to protect. The electron microscopy started appearing in academic papers, but it doesn't actually make sense in scientific terms. It's likely came from a mistranslation of a correct term, scanning electronic microscopy, from another language. So the story is maybe something happened within translation, a typo or a tiny punctuation, like a comma or period, was probably misplaced or happened, changing the meaning of the whole phrase. This error made its way into the library training data and was then suggested to many, many scholars. In result, this small, tiny mistake ended up in showing up in many different papers. And it shows how easily errors can spread using AI. While it's easy to blame AI at the first glance, the real issue lies in how such errors spread through research due to insufficient editorial oversight and governance. And today, I'm going to argue that effective AI implementation in libraries require both robust policy frameworks and comprehensive literacy program. I believe that neither alone is sufficient. So let's start with something that you have heard several times everywhere. Ethical challenges. But this time I'm going to share some concrete examples, which I have witnessed myself in last 3 years, collaborating with different schools and colleges. First is bias and representation. AI learns from bias collection, like what I shared earlier. It may amplify those biases. Picture a student searching for feminist philosophy and being offered only white Western texts. The second is transparency. We have some school adopting AI for reference desks for night shifts. If users don't know when they are interacting with AI, how can they trust the interaction? Imagine a student receiving reading recommendations without knowing the AI's criteria, whether those lists are provided by relevancy or popularity or only publisher promotions. The third is privacy. Libraries always welcome intellectual freedom, but when an AI system logs every click, every search, inquiries, and all inquiries, are we still upholding that freedom? Think of a grad student researching political sensitive topics under silent surveillance. The fourth is oversight. No AI should make high-stake decision alone. Think of AI like a small or a smart assistant, not the librarian in chief. AI might flag a journal as low quality, but without human review, a valuable source could be wrongly excluded from the collection. The fifth is equity. If AI tools become gateway to services, how do we ensure equitable access to Patreon without broadband or comfort with technology? The first-gen students struggling with an AI interface may miss those resources meant to support them. I strongly believe that each of these challenges is an invitation, not to fear from the technology, but to adopt and shape it ethically. So I believe that policy isn't an option. It's an ethical infrastructure. What should we do at this point? Let's start strategy. As someone with the background in policymaking and policy development in science and technology, here's my experience. What you don't formalize, you risk losing. So I believe that libraries should invest in formal AI policy. And I'm giving you some policy making as for AI in the library. The first is institutional memory. Ethical champions come and go, but policy persists. For example, a clear AI use policy ensures future librarians won't have to restart debates about algorithmic biases every time leadership changes. Policies provide continuity and reinforce shared value over time, especially in environments shaped by high staff turnover and evolving technology. The second is vendor accountability. Most AI tools are built for profit, not for library values. Policies help you hold vendors to standards that reflect your mission. For example, a vendor provides AI-generated summaries without notifying libraries. A strong policy ensures you can demand transparency and timely correction that align with your library values. Consistency. In decision-making without guidance, decisions become reactive and hard to explain to leadership or to public. Imagine one department allowing utilizing AI for student, specifically student paper, while another bans them. Or some campus allow using Grammarly, the AI, for writing and paper editing, but not ChatGPT. Clear policy avoids confusion and backlashes. We are already seeing this inconsistency plays out across schools. Policy provides a shared framework, clarifies boundaries, and reduces the risk of institutional contradiction or public backlashes. The last one is adaptability. Policies should evolve. Think of them as living documents, not museum pieces. A policy might begin by restricting AI-generated metadata, but later permit it under expert oversight and audit mechanisms. This kind of structured flexibility allows libraries to innovate responsibly while retaining control over the quality and integrity of the services. But how to start? I encourage you to return to your institute and explore whatever there are as for existing policy on AI. If none are in place, you might consider initiating the conversation and helping to set the process in motion. Start small. Draft a one-page statement of principles within 30 days, expand to a full framework within 90 days, and put review process in place within 6 months. You want a great model? I found a University of Michigan algorithmic impact statement really useful because that forces you somehow to ask yourself who benefits, who are at risk, and who decides. I provided the link at the very last slide, the resource. You don't need to have all the answers to get started. In fact, inviting colleagues from across departments, IT, teaching and learning, accessibility, privacy, and user services can make the policy richer and more resilient. If even a modest draft can catalyze a meaningful campus-wide discussion and position your library as a leader in ethical innovation. The key is to move from passive adoption to active alignment, ensuring that the technology we use reflects the value we hold. Besides policymaking, I believe that AI literacy does matter a lot. Our ethical leadership doesn't end with policy. It should also extend to education, and we need to help our patrons to understand how to critically assess AI-generated content, how to understand when AI is shaping their research path, and how to challenge misinformation in an AI-saturated world. Moreover, we really need to collaborate with faculty members, embed AI literacy in the research classroom. That is our domain, and we must claim it. Just as we've taught database searching and citation evaluation, I believe that AI literacy represents the natural revolution of our information literacy mission. The future of libraries will be shaped by us advocating access, equity, and ethical leadership. Smart libraries doesn't just use AI, they guide it with purpose, with policy, and with people at the center. If we want AI to serve our community, we must create spaces for questions, audits, and dissent. We must build systems as inclusive and transparent as our reference desks have always aspired to be. Because ultimately, the future of libraries won't just be built by algorithms. It will be built by us, by professionals who understand that technology must be stewarded with care, who see policy as a tool for protection and possibility, and who are committed to ensuring that innovation serves the public good. So let's embrace the challenge together. Let's lead with courage, collaborate across boundaries, and ensure that as AI shapes the world, libraries help shape AI. Let's embrace this challenge together. I would like to share a quote from David Lankus, a professor and a director of the School of Library Information Science at University of South Carolina. If you want a future for libraries, it lies within you, the librarians. If you want a healthy community that seeks knowledge and information conversation, then advocate for it beyond your walls. Thank you. And if there is any question, I would be more than happy to answer. And here's the resource that I suggest to go over.
Thank you so much for that presentation, Shima. Any questions, comments? And we have a comment in the chat. Says, this conversation reminded me of the case of an MA high school student and how the school lacked AI policies at the time of the student violation. And there's a link that we can go to if you wish.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Jenny, for sharing this.
We have time for a question or two. The one comment I like, I think, is about your second to last slide. He said, "Smart libraries guide AI with purpose." I love that quotation. So any questions from anyone? Any comments? Seeing some emojis of people appreciating the presentation. So thank you for the important guidelines you shared there as we seek to undertake policy formulation in the area of AI use in our educational institutes. Okay, if there are no further questions, we will go ahead to our third presentation, and we will go just slightly over our 3:45 time to accommodate our 15 minutes for our presenter. Okay, so I introduce you now to Karen Duster Greenleaf. Karen is the Director of Academic Engagement and Instruction at the Kennesaw State University Libraries. Please join me in welcoming Karen Duster Greenleaf. Go right ahead. Your mic is on.
Yep.
Okay, go right ahead. Great.
Thank you, Selwyn, and good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. I really greatly appreciate you all joining me today. As Selwyn mentioned, my name is Karen Doster Greenleaf, and I'm the Director of Academic Engagement and Instruction at KSU University in Georgia. Today, I will be discussing my work developing and teaching a course on the ethical implications of the use of generative AI titled The Ethical Frontier, Gen AI and the Quest for Truth in Information Retrieval. To provide some background, in 2024, our library and the university's Honors College entered into a new partnership that would incorporate librarian faculty into their teaching roster. One of the courses offered through the Honors College that librarian faculty would now be invited to teach is their Discovery course. This is a short-term, non-credit learning experience that revolves around unique topics and offer content beyond regular curriculum, often integrating current events and pop culture. This presented a unique opportunity to design and teach a course on any topic that interested us. Around this time, we were also witnessing and experiencing the meteoric adoption and popularity of ChatGPT and similar generative AI tools. KSU found itself in the same precarious position as other higher education institutions. And in 2023, due to the implications of their use by undergraduate students. During the tail end of 2023, KSU leadership and faculty held multiple trainings, discussions, and town halls to discuss the new technology, its use for teaching, research, and student use, along with what policies or mandates needed to be established. By 2024, the university had established guidelines for AI use and provided curriculum statements that the faculty could, syllabus statements that the faculty could incorporate based on their philosophy of the use in their classrooms. This ranged from complete abstinence to total adoption without acknowledgement, meaning students were allowed to use AI to complete coursework and were not required to acknowledge that they had used any generative AI tool. Given the state of this discourse around campus and the wide range of potential application, there was one significant piece missing from this dialogue. The institution was focusing heavily on what the faculty thought and felt, how we could learn about it, how we could use it. But aside from potential issues around academic integrity, it was leaving students out of the equation. There was minimal discussion on how do we communicate and help our students navigate this new technological landscape. Noticing this, I saw our new partnership with the Honors College as the ideal opportunity to teach a discovery course on Gen AI with a focus on the ethical implications of its use. There is the additional serendipitous element that a natural alignment exists between the AI literacy needs of college students and established information literacy learning objectives. Given my experience, Gen AI is the next frontier of information literacy and provides instruction librarians the opportunity to level up and prove that our profession is not obsolete just because a new advancement of technology has emerged. Similarly, Google didn't make us extinct like everyone thought it would in the early 2000s. Gen AI won't make it now. Marrying information literacy tenets into a course about Gen AI and its ethical use highlights the power and value of human critical thinking when dealing with information on a large scale. Without it, we'll all get stuck on Mount Stupid. So for those of you who may be familiar with the Dunning-Kruger effect, this means that we limit our capabilities at just the passing use of a technology without exploring or pushing our capabilities further. And for those of us in libraries, what we began to witness in 2023 is that students were using AI and thought that that was the end of their research process. My course was a step forward to address this new ubiquitous technology and get students to start thinking further. In the development of my course, I pulled from existing IL pedagogy to help frame my curriculum, noticing, as I mentioned earlier, a connection between AI literacy needs and existing IL learning objectives. The most pertinent was the ACRL framework around research as inquiry and its stipulation that researchers follow ethical and legal guidelines in gathering and using information. Given that generative AI tools are fundamentally an automated algorithm of large-scale information, again, that's simplified, but still true, understanding how these tools collect and generate content was essential for our students and their development as information literate scholars. From there, I established these 3 learning objectives. As you may know, critical thinking and evaluation were a strong undercurrent for all my instructional materials for this course. And here's an overview of the course curriculum. Week 1 covered what is AI, elements of AI, covering the basics of machine learning, deep learning, generative AI, natural language programs, and large language models. How AI content is created, a deep thinking exercise on what the difference between knowledge and intelligence was. Week 2 covered ethics, foundations, and various ethical considerations that I'll cover in more detail in a few slides, and challenged them to think about how this would impact their current future use of AI tools. Week 3 connected the technology and IL literacy by getting students to think critically about information creation, collection, and evaluation, and what this meant from the perspective of the development of LLMs and the product they create when using them. Week 4 pulled previous weeks together, addressing the issue of copyright and legality of AI-created content, particularly within the context of multimedia outputs. And week 5 concluded the class with a wrap-up lecture of future considerations regarding student use of AI for personal and academic purposes, along with the SWOT analysis project of a Gen AI tool based on the evaluation skills and strategies they developed over the course of the class. Over the span of those 5 weeks, I consistently challenged the students to ask themselves, what did it mean to them to use an AI tool, while also providing them with the knowledge and opportunities to answer this question in an educated manner. This question was heavily impacted by the various ethical considerations we covered in week 2, and challenged students to reevaluate when using a generative AI. Thinking about the environmental impact of weighing the value of the use of the Gen AI tools and the energy consumption and increased pollution that goes along with it. Is using an AI tool worth it? The intent of use and wondering how and why are these tools being created? What is the purpose behind the user when they do? What could be the societal impact of these tools if left unchecked, such as faux experts? We also talked about data diversity, which focused on ethical content creation and the implication of data size, bias, and discrimination they play on the tool's outputs, along with equity of access, pointing out the ethical limitations of access regarding the use and creation of these tools, such as digital redlining and regulation concerns. As noted earlier, the course culminated in an in-class project where students were asked to select a generative AI tool of their choosing, conduct a SWOT analysis, and present their thought process. Using the SWOT framework, the students were asked to consider the following in relationship to their developing understanding of the ethical development and use of generative AI. When evaluating their AI tool of choice, they had to think about what were the positive aspects regarding the strengths of the tool. Did it do what it was supposed to do? Regarding weaknesses, were there limitations and did it meet its intended use? But also importantly, how could its use negatively impact users? But we also looked on the upside, opportunities regarding the demand for the technology and how the technology could potentially be improved, while also understanding the threats in relationship to unfavorable characteristics of the technology and any potential foreseeable societal impacts. My hope was that by the end of the class, students would successfully move beyond that first step of understanding when engaging with generative AI and begin their journey to truly understand how the technology could be used as a tool to augment their academic work and not just replace it. So moving beyond Mount Stupid to the peak of enlightenment. Moving forward, there are several things I'm taking into consideration with the revision of this course, many of them stemming from student feedback, particularly around hands-on practice and experience with the tool, because learning AI is very experiential. You can't fully understand the technology simply by reading about it. You have to play around with it, experiment, ask your own critical questions. This course also was a bit of a pilot as it was only offered to a small percentage of KSU students, the Honors College only. And so looking at potentially expanding this into a micro-credential that any KSU student could take. But to help also mitigate that, I'm looking at ways that elements of this course could be implemented into one-shot information literacy sessions taught across the university to a wider audience of our students, especially given that so many of our resources are starting to integrate generative AI tools of their own, such as JSTOR's beta and Claravit ProQuest's new research assistance tool. I want to thank you all for attending my session, and I'd like to open the floor for any questions at this time.
Thank you, Karen, for that presentation. Very informative. The floor is open. Any questions? I really appreciate what you shared. That kind of assists us as we seek to develop either one-shot sessions or more so in what you shared there, as we seek to develop courses in introducing AI into our information literacy sessions or even into the wider curriculum. Yes, I have a comment here. Let me read it for you. In academic libraries, we are seeing an increase in the number of students. No, is this it? Yes, sorry, right. In academic libraries, we are seeing an increase in the number of students who are turning to AI tools to help them with assignments. There's a lot of pushback from some professors who feel AI makes it too easy for students to cheat, cut corners in collecting research, engage in critical thinking, writing, and other ethical considerations. What can librarians do to address these issues with faculty while still supporting the use of AI in academic research?
I think this question speaks to all of our presentations, but I'm happy to address the faculty component because that was certainly a big component of what launched my course. And what I could say is starting with having a conversation with the faculty about where their fears are, because that's usually where faculty are initially coming from, is a knee-jerk reaction to not fully understanding what the technology is, and so not being able to formulate reasonable guardrails around the use and their learning objectives for their courses. I know at my institution, a lot of faculty are having to rethink the assignments that they're giving students. So really challenging them to rethink what is the learning outcomes that they have for their students, and are there other deliverables outside of a 10-page paper that could highlight that, or shifting to in-class writing assignments, while also still, again, using that dialogue to zero in on what is the faculty's biggest concern about using the tools. Within my unit, one of the things that several of our librarians are doing is highlighting how the tool can be used in a safe way in relationship to topic development. And I'm going to turn it over to my fellow presenters because I know, I believe Kelly had talked about this in her presentation.
So I'll just say that, yes, that's a big concern all around. I'm working with a group across the CUNY of librarians, and we're almost done creating a tool based on the Big Six model that would show like how could AI appropriately be used in the Big Six research process from a basic, intermediate, and advanced standpoint. So for instance, for like acquiring information, it may be like using AI to figure out how to do a Boolean search, to using one of the, elicits or research rabbits, to perhaps using or creating a chatbot that alerts you of when things around the internet get published on whatever, you know what I mean? But the ultimate point is that we're trying to create some sort of conversation piece to show how AI could ethically be used in the process that may be helpful for faculty to comprehend such a nebulous topic and perhaps feel comfortable integrating things into their curriculum with that guidance.
Any further comments? Could we go on to the next question here? And I think this is for Karen. Could the speaker define AI hallucination? I hear the term, but I need a refresher definition. Thank you. You are on mute.
Stop doing that to myself. So AI hallucinations particularly deal with in the early stages of ChatGPT 3, when students would be writing a paper and they would ask for a reference or they had to have a citation. The tool was essentially creating journal articles out of nowhere. And so, but faculty were kind of catching on because they'd try to find that article and it wouldn't exist. There has been advancements to address that, but there still are some concerns around particularly the journal, maybe the article really exists, but the citation the generative AI creates puts the author's name wrong. That could be a completely wrong name. It could be one of the things that we've seen has also been gender swaps. So it will be the right last name, the right first initial, but it's like Smith Joan or Smith Julia instead of Smith Julian. It's little things like that where it's not as smart as we sometimes tend to think it is. But hopefully that answered your question. It was making things up.
Yes, yeah. There's a question as regards the availability of the slides. I think, I'm not sure if anybody placed their slides in the resources here, but in the lobby where there are abstracts for each presentation, I think, would you ladies, would you have the copies of your slides there? Otherwise, this whole presentation will be immediately available to all, via Zoom, to all the attendees of this conference. Okay, so once this is closed off, you can access it via Zoom. Okay, great.
I'm also
Go right ahead.
happy. I was going to say, if anybody wants to email me, I'm also happy to share my slides or answer any further questions.
Great, thank you. And of course, via I don't know, some people are having some difficulties getting into it. What's the name again? Sorry. We do have a system where the conversation can continue. It slips my head
Discord.
now. Discord, right? For those who will be able to get in, some of these conversations begun here can continue there. So thank you very much, Karen, Shima, and Kelly. Okay, we're really happy that you were able to do these presentations for us and to get us thinking on on these topics here of AI. Okay, great. So pleasant evening. I hope you're able to attend some more of the conferences. Great. Pleasant evening. Bye, everyone. Thanks for attending.
Bye. Thank you all for attending.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Selwyn.
Thank you so much. Great working with you.
Yes. Bye.